Greetings and welcome to the Mount Rushmore podcast. My name is Jeff. I'm joined as always by Bat Boy found on moon. And my good friends Richard.
Hello.
And Michael.
Howdy.
Richard and Michael like to debate and deliberate the most ubiquitous of any given topic, and this week's topic of Richard's choice is the Mount Rushmore of weekly world news articles. Richard, why?
Because when I was a kid growing up, my grandmother would.
You're still a kid, buddy.
I'm a kid at heart.
You're a kid at heart.
Well,
Which
my
one?
heart is from a kid. When I was growing up, my grandmother would buy Weekly World News and the Inquirer every week, and I'm to this day I'm still not sure whether or not she bought it because she thought it was funny or because she thought it was real. I have no idea.
Yeah, and Weekly World News, for the uninitiated, is the magazine that makes the Inquirer look like the New York Times, right?
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
It's the tabloid of tabloids.
Yeah. The aspects, the very journalistic choices that they make remind me of something that would have happened in actually another century. It just seems so sensationalist and ridiculous and bizarre. Maybe our viewers have their own favorite articles and things from that magazine that they can share with us, but I think it's time for Michael to kick things off by letting us know what his number one pick is.
October 6th, 1992. Bat Boy escapes.
Bad Boy Escape!
Bat Boy also on my list.
Okay, good.
That had to be. That was.
Yeah. Bat Boy is... I'm going to read you just a little clipping from that episode. I'm madder than my bull terrier at a cat show over the Weekly World News front page story this week, writes Ed Anger.
I love Ed Anger.
We'll get back to Ed Anger, by the way.
The idea of Bat Boy, who is West Virginian, also part bat, grew up in, I believe it was a hellhole cave.
Right.
In West Virginia.
Just Bat Boy.
Is
just
that in
the
Boone
image,
County, West Virginia?
Just the image of Bat Boy is so precious. You know, he started out 2 feet tall. You know, he's not used to society. Mm-hmm. He wanders. He's spooky. He's very dangerous.
He has pointy ears, a
pointy
big
ears, sharp
mouth.
teeth,
Bald.
Bald is all.
Bald.
Get
It's a
out.
ping pong ball.
Born in 1982.
Oh.
Son of Susan Boy.
Wait, really?
His grandfather, Herbert Sr.
Related to Susan Boyle, the singer.
Herbert
from-
Sr. Boy.
Wait, are
So
you
his
serious?
first name is Bat.
His last name is Boy.
The genealogy of Bat Boy is amazing. Goes back to the founding of America, basically. His parents. What I do like about them, 2003, he was a gubernatorial candidate in California. 2008, supporter of John McCain, but then switched to Barack Obama.
Wait.
What I like about
Under
Bat Boy
the-
is that he is an independent thinker. But to get back to 1992's
Original.
issue, Bat Boy escapes. There is a tenacity of Bat Boy. He is constantly in and out of trouble with the law. The government's trying to get him.
Uh-huh.
He gets out of it.
Yeah.
Government captures Bat Boy.
Yeah.
He gets out of it again.
This is the
God bless Bat Boy.
Byron-esque, Shelley-esque kind of tormented soul, right?
I also appreciate the fact that even though the government is out to get him, and he once stole a car and took the government forces on a joyride, he also was a super patriot who decided to go fight the battles in Afghanistan and Iraq
Oh, I love this man. I love him.
on behalf of the U.S. government because he was that much of a patriot.
This seems like Stranger Things meets Captain America or something. Was he incarcerated from some kind of prison system, or
Yeah, he was in a lab.
Oh, he's in a lab. Oh, okay.
He escaped from a lab.
But he not committed a crime. He was just being observed.
Well,
and
the
tested.
crime of humanity is crime of being
We're all
born.
doing that, yeah.
One thing I'd like to highlight on each topic, or each choice of mine this week, is another article from the same issue. So from that same issue, giant octopus saves drowning couple. The Weekly World News is amazing, has always been amazing. As soon as Richard selected this topic, my heart burst.
Hey, that's my job.
That's your job. But Bat Boy went on to have a off-Broadway musical.
Oh yeah.
I don't think they're. I mean, he's wonderful. We are all Bat Boy.
Yes. Yes, he's the every boy.
Oh.
Yeah. Do you also have an article about Bat Boy that you want to throw in with this category, Richard, or is it different?
Well, I think I had the same one that Michael did.
Okay.
Actually, it was the origins of Bat Boy. And Michael touched, I think, on most of the high points. I just think that Bat Boy there is something about Bat Boy that has captured the public's like. It kind of encapsulates everything that's batshit crazy about, pardon the pun, about the Weekly World News.
Okay.
And why, if you get it, then why you loved it.
Yeah. So that's something I would love to discover your insight on. Is storytelling resonates with us for different reasons, and some stories go farther and are repeated more frequently because of an identification that listeners and readers might have. What do people relate to Bat Boy? What do you relate?
I think it's
Everybody loves an outsider.
Yeah. Kind of. He's kind of a rebel.
It does seem like Johnny Depp might be developing this character for his portrayal of it at some point. Or
You
Tim
can definitely
Burton.
see that. Yeah.
I will say this: Bat Boy, alive today, is 36 years old. That will come into play later.
Okay. Okay, cool. All right, we're opening with those are the copters trying to get Bat Boy.
Trying to get Bat Boy. The
Chasing after
helicopters
him.
flying overhead.
He's climbing to the top of a tower somewhere. Okay, Bat Boy escapes. Richard, what is your choice?
Okay. So my first one is Elvis is Alive,
Okay.
which is a whole genre.
That's a genre, yeah.
I will go with the specific one, which was Jimmy Hoffa found in Elvis's grave,
Oh, wow.
because I
That combines two.
appreciate the fact that Weekly World News and their exhaustive research could find a way to combine these two stories
Yeah.
and these two pop culture myths
Yeah.
into bouillabaisse.
Was this written by Sasquatch?
It may have been,
Yeah.
but they love Elvis. They
Yeah.
love their highest selling issue ever was headlined "Elvis Alive and Living in Kalamazoo."
Oh, my God.
That's just a Bugs Bunny. That's just something that Bugs Bunny once said.
What was it about this Jimmy Hoffa?
I think it was just the idea that they managed to take like this one thing that they cover a lot, which is Jimmy Hoffa, and there are a lot of Jimmy Hoffa found in Jimmy Hoffa's body in and combine it with Elvis is actually alive, and how do we combine the two?
Yeah, if they don't
just dump it right in there.
If they don't have a headline generator in which they've got just probably a dozen inputs that they can mix and remix in the editorial newsroom, I'd be surprised.
I think the thing about Jimmy Hoffa too, this aspect of the story, is that there is a subset of Americans who will always know who Elvis Presley is.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, there will be a subset who will not know who Jimmy Hoffa is.
Yeah.
So at some point, Elvis and Jimmy Hoffa and their mutual disappearances were almost not equally important, but like, oh, maybe Elvis is dead. We don't know. Ooh, maybe Jimmy Hoffa is dead. We don't know. They both disappeared. They kind of shared that same mystery space. Eventually, this storyline written in 30 years, people aren't going to... Jimmy who?
Yeah.
But Elvis. So I appreciate the timeliness of an article like this in the Weekly World News, that they knew who's reading their articles.
Yeah. We're talking about the writing therein, but the photos and the art and things are important.
I love the art of Elvis. I've pulled up here an article on robertnewman.com, Elvis is Alive. And it's all of the different versions of old Elvis that they've pulled together from Photoshop or pre-Photoshop. A lot of these are even, 1994. I'm looking at one here. That's pre-Photoshop.
Yeah.
So somebody had to like hand draw,
Airbrush it.
airbrush in like Elvis with like giant bald spot.
Yeah.
And or Elvis with a broken leg, breaks leg in motorcycle crash. So that they actually even had a contest, I remember, for Weekly World News, because when they did the Elvis stamps. Remember the Elvis stamps?
Oh, sure, yeah.
And you got to vote whether it was young Elvis or old Elvis.
Yeah.
They had their own contest, which is you could vote for young Elvis, old Elvis, or elderly Elvis. And elderly Elvis won in a cakewalk. So I always appreciated that. But just the way they portray Elvis as an older person over the years is just, it goes from him looking basically like Elvis to him looking like, I don't know what you call that, like creeper Elvis, to possibly a werewolf.
Yeah, it looks definitely like a werewolf.
So it really runs the gamut.
How, I believe Weekly World News is still doing some sort of publication.
They're
today.
online now.
Eventually, Elvis has to be dead for forever, right? Or is there going to be continuous Elvis Presley has been in a cryogenic chamber? Elvis Presley is 135 years old. Here are the pictures. Are they ever going to run out of Elvis Presley as alive stories, or am I just am I just laughing right now?
No,
Is that the stupidest thing I've ever said?
They'll always find a way to put Elvis alive doing something.
Well, who do you think could be on par to eclipse? Like, I haven't seen
Michael Jackson.
Michael Jackson.
And then they even did an Elvis scene with Michael Jackson.
Did they?
Story. So I think maybe that's a passing of the torch a little bit, way to kind of get the Michael Jackson stories out there.
Yeah. Do you see that? I believe their focus is on people who are perfect by dint of the fact that they are either mythological or dead. Like, it seems like they can tell any story they want without fear of libel. Lawsuits or anything like that. Do you think?
I just love the idea of like Sasquatch hiring a lawyer.
Yeah.
You bring them down. Lady Sasquatch mostly.
Lady Sasquatch,
a lot of Lady Sasquatches in the Weekly World News.
What do you imagine the typical Weekly World News reader? Could you describe your grandmother or the people you know that read the Weekly World News?
Oh, well, my grandmother was, she grew up in Texas, and she was an Okie.
Oh, right on.
But most accurate way to describe her. She maybe didn't have the most forward-thinking, progressive views on society on some extent. She also had a great sense of humor, which is why I can't quite tell where she came down on this. I think that it's either elderly ladies who have a lot of cats, or it was college students who got the joke.
Yeah.
It was like the proto-Onion.
Yeah.
Before there was an Onion, there was the Weekly World News.
I think it might have been the early Letterman that made me start to have fun with it, because I remember being kind of fearful of these tabloids when I were at the checkout stand, because I thought they were just kind of scary. Like, it seems like the illustrations, usually they take a grainy photograph, and then pay special care to make them have evil eyes and things in it.
Right.
But I think Elvis, I think some of the stories about Elvis, I remember Letterman commenting on them, and they started.
I think he used to have one of the editors on occasionally to talk about these stories that they had found.
Yeah. I would also say it seems like some of the components that are kind of prescient towards something like Fox News are fear. It's all based on our fears or feelings about certain things.
Right.
Okay, Michael, what's your next choice?
My next choice is from June 17th, 1997. The article in question, Abraham Lincoln was a professional wrestler and used the Lincoln leg lock.
I think we've discussed this on the show before, haven't
we?
we?
Might have. This was... I have this clipping still.
Okay.
I bought this episode. You talk about being someone in college. This was me after my first year of college at home over the summer. And somehow I must have been in a grocery store and seen this issue. An issue that on the cover had worldwide quake frees demons from hell. So what about... My first question to me from 20 years ago is, what about that got me into that issue?
Yeah.
Was I standing in line going like, that's a bummer.
Uh-huh.
Oh, the demon from hell, huh? And then I flipped through and saw this image of Abraham Lincoln photoshopped onto Hulk Hogan's body.
Oh, that's awesome.
With a do-rag on that says Abe.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the article in question is about how Abraham Lincoln, beloved president, did some amateur wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
Did some professional wrestling. He would wear a mask.
Yeah.
And he would trap his opponents in the Lincoln leg. I've had a copy of this article for 21 years. It's preserved somewhere in a file folder. It's yellowed. It's crusty, much like I'm sure Abraham Lincoln is today. Or who knows?
Who knows? Could be a ghost.
He wrestled in a mask, had amazing costumes. He understood showmanship.
What other presidents did he wrestle, or was he
No.
wrestling contemporary wrestlers?
There is a footnote at the end of this article. It says, the article concludes that there is no evidence that he wrestled professionally after he took office, but that an expert would say, a very common phrase, an expert or scientist
would say.
It wouldn't surprise me if he did. We have no idea if Lincoln wrestled other presidents. Who he would have wrestled? The guy that got us into
Lincoln Douglas.
yeah, he would have Lincoln Douglas.
Zachary Taylor or something. Yeah.
What it comes down to, and why this is so special to me, is just the image of Lincoln himself with these huge 24-inch pythons.
Doesn't he have like a bandana on?
Yeah, that just says Abe. And God bless.
According to the Weekly World News, Abraham Lincoln was also a woman.
Whoa.
So even more impressive that she was
the gorgeous
a wrestler.
Lincolns of wrestling.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think it's amazing the iconic characters that they extend their legend by populating new stories with them. You know, they're keeping the legend alive of these people by putting them into new stories. I wonder what the editorial room is like for this. Is this guy like throwing darts at pictures of iconic characters and just kind of deciding what we could do with that thing? Do you think? Does it even matter? And in a way, is this gone?
Does he write Weekly World News articles? I assume it's one person that does all this. The way that Rivers Cuomo writes Weezer songs nowadays.
He's got a spreadsheet.
Where he just has a spreadsheet and he just takes words and puts them together and is like, does Lincoln Leg Lock sound good?
Yeah.
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 It really does.
It does almost seem like
Lady Bigfoot gives birth to twin raptors.
Yeah.
I don't know. It sounds like a, word barf, but it sounds pretty good.
In a way, it almost feels like a Salvador Dali painting where there's melting watches and the armless Venus.
Can you imagine if this is the only artwork that survives the Armageddon? If there is someone in a bunker who has every issue of the Weekly World News and
piecing together
the
our
rest
history.
of the world is destroyed, and somehow another alien culture comes down, discovers this one bunker, and they read the history of the world as told through the Weekly World. Jeff, we're writing this.
We're writing this thing. It is our halftime. What crazy stories can you share from the Weekly World News with us? Go to our Facebook page and post the weirdest stories you know from the Weekly World News. We want to hear what your opinion regarding the most sensational stories that they've published. And after you go to our Facebook page, please visit our Instagram, our Twitter, and please go to iTunes or Stitcher and download, rate, and review past episodes. We'd love to have your opinions and your reviews. And please support the podcast community in general by giving a listen to this promo for another quality podcast.
Hey everyone, my name's Jim Hankey and I'm the host of Vinyl Emergency, a podcast where musicians, producers, comedians, and those who dream up, press, release, or collect vinyl records discuss their relationship with the medium today as well as in their formative youth. Artwork that has stood the test of time, neighborhood record stores we remember, the first albums we ever bought, vinyl's warmth and sound. The tangible object of a vinyl record can bring forth so many intangible memories, and that's what we try to capture on the show. Guests have included Roseanne Cash, Ben Montench of Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, Brian Stack from Conan and The Late Show with Stephen Colbert, Ted Leo, Lily Hyatt, and Dave Porter of Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. We've been known to do an episode or two in front of a live audience as well, and we also talk to everyday record collectors about what drives their passion. We even have episodes dedicated to the processes of mastering for vinyl, properly cleaning your records, the feeling of standing in line for hours on record store day, and much more. Tune into Vinyl Emergency however you get your podcasts. Visit us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Vinyl Emergency, or stop by our website, vinylemergency.com.
Okay, we are back. Richard and Michael are discussing the Mount Rushmore of Weekly World News articles. You probably know Weekly World News. It's that tabloid magazine, the black and white one, next to the Inquirer. And Richard is going to name his next choice.
You mentioned him earlier, the man, the myth, the legend, Ed Anger.
Ed Anger.
Oh, I love quoting Ed Anger, and I love the fact that you actually remember who he
Yes.
was, because I will mention him sometimes. I just get a lot of blank
Yeah.
stares from people.
I remember the biggest headline. I'll shut up after this. Ed Anger in 1984 wrote an article called "AIDS: The Gay Plague." How prescient
Right.
Ed Anger was.
So Ed Anger was. There's actually a backstory behind this. Is the fact that there was a lawsuit that took place, revolving around Ed Anger, that one of the original writers for the Weekly World News kind of invented him as sort of this party trick. He would sort of start ranting as this right-wing conservative nut, and they decided to turn this into a column for Weekly World News. And once he left, after about 4 or 5 years, they kept doing Ed Anger without him, and he wound up suing, and it wound up going to like a state Supreme Court, and a whole 9 yards. But it was like an actual like lawsuit that helped to prove whether or not a writer's work for a newspaper, if they have creative credit for it or not.
Wow.
And turned out that the ruling was that no, if you write something like that for a newspaper, the newspaper has control over kind of the column concept.
Wow,
So-
and that proved it.
And I wonder what Ed Anger would feel about that. I bet he'd be madder than what would he be? He might be, madder than a porcupine at a pillow convention or something like that. Because that was one of the things. So if you guys had never read Ed Anger, he was the spoof of this arch conservative, very right wing, very red meat, very Wally George esque. And I know we've talked about Wally George on the show a little bit in the past. And versus where you never really quite understood if Wally George was in on the joke or not.
Yeah.
Obviously, Ed Anger was completely in on the joke. I will give you a few of the, and he would always start the articles with an "I'm madder than." So I'll just give you a few of them. I'm madder than a doctor with a busted golf club. I'm madder than a grease monkey with a crooked dipstick. Madder than a referee in a polka dot shirt, etc. I'm madder than LaToya Jackson at a talent contest.
Oh, wow.
Burn on LaToya.
God, in 1985, that was
Cool burn.
burn as you can get. So the article that I'm specifically going to be not talking about, but of all the ones that he did, it was, if wimpy Europeans won't back us in Iraq, let's invade them too.
Yeah.
This was back in like 1992.
Yeah.
Or actually, this was back in 2003. I take that back. And he was madder than Napoleon Bonaparte at a big and tall men's store. But I could have picked any one of these. They're all fantastic. And what fascinates me is that the stuff he was writing and the way he was writing it, it no longer is. It's not even parody anymore.
It's been normalized.
It's been normalized by people like Glenn Beck. The Chicago Tribune did a online quiz where they took a quote, and you had to guess whether it was Ed Anger or Glenn Beck.
Oh, wow.
And most people only got about 7 of them right.
Do you think there's always been an Ed Anger in yellow tabloid channels, but then it's elevated to the domain of television journalism, which Fox pretends to be?
Yeah, I mean, it's what's his name from InfoWars screaming about the
Yeah.
frogs turning us gay.
Yeah.
That isn't a Weekly World News topic if I've ever heard one.
Yeah.
Right. He was basically Alex Jones before Alex Jones.
Yes, thank you. I couldn't think of his name. I purged him out of my head.
That's probably for the best that you did. I would read these as a kid. And this was like my first exposure to like satire in a lot of ways. It was the first time that I really got something that wasn't, I read something that you had to understand. You had to do the legwork to understand, oh, this isn't serious.
Yeah.
And this is sort of a takeoff on X, Y, and Z. So but at the same time, when he did one 15 years ago, 25 years ago that said knock down the Statue of Liberty and put a lock on our borders now, that, my God, you could hear somebody on Fox News say that now every day. The idea of how prescient this whole concept was is just amazing to me.
I think the fact that fear travels so quickly through electronic media helps the editorial process that they've established
Well,
thrive.
and social media too. The fact that if Ed Anger articles, and I know they're still doing them online, but I think Ed Anger now people kind of get the joke. But if social media was around back in, say, the 80s, I think a lot of these Ed Anger articles would have been spread as like coming from a real columnist.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little weird, I'd have to say, that the Weekly World News Twitter feed has only like 3,000 followers.
Oh, well.
That seems...
Yeah.
If we have half of what the Weekly World News has as followers, God bless all of you Twitter followers of ours. But if like, that's strange to me.
Yeah. Do you feel like, I feel like some of the supporters of these more hate spewing politicians and this type of journalism, if you ask, do they agree with it or do they believe it? They'd say, no, but well, you know,
Maybe I'm being kind of extreme about it,
Yeah.
but you get the idea.
Yeah, you get the idea. Meaning, whatever this guy's point of view is, what he's actually saying, I might not believe in, but I like where the guy's head's at. Like, feel like there are some people who, in general, they feel like they adopt that point of view.
Sure.
Just like I thought Obama wasn't always perfect, but I liked the general direction he was going. So I think that's how people feel about that. Okay, Michael, what do you got?
My next one. Alien in slammer after fistfight with Bill, ... over Hillary. Here, Jeff. Richard, here's the picture.
Yes.
This one is wonderful for a couple of reasons. One, it has a mugshot of the alien. Two, Bill Clinton has a black eye with a sad face. Three, Hillary looking shocked as ever. And then also there's Jay Leno on the cover for some reason.
Because they were discussing it.
That's right. So this is from a September 9th, 2003 issue. And I believe that this is a pretty long narrative that goes into this.
I will point out that my last pick is Bill Clinton hires 3-breasted intern.
Okay.
That's my last pick, was
So
that story.
Clinton is the subject.
The Clinton, and I'll show you guys the photo, and that is clearly and not at all photoshopped. A photo of Bill Clinton
That's real.
with an intern that's got 3 breasts.
That's real.
And then in the little box, it says, shocked Hillary. I thought he was a leg man. With a photo of shocked Hillary, which seems to be probably, they just have all the stock photos of shocked Hillary at this point.
So there's also another pivot there. Alien backs Clinton.
Yeah. So this. Yeah. So back in '92. So this article is from 2003. Like Bill Clinton's out of office. Hillary's in the Senate. Back in '92, Pilod, the alien, had backed Clinton. Right?
I love the same guy who probably runs a kebab store.
Yeah.
in Glendale.
It's possible that Hillary also had adopted his baby at some point too. Same alien. I don't know. I'm not exactly sure.
Okay.
But there is a history between the aliens and the Clintons. Eventually later, I think the alien went on to back George H.
Whoa, really?
Bush.
Oh, she jumped parties.
George W. Bush, not George H. These aliens, they're independent thinkers.
Yeah.
A lot like
Well, they're foreign. They're just from another
A
country.
lot like Bat Boy.
a lot like
But how can he vote though? Is he naturalized?
No, he can
He can
support
back
who he
somebody.
wants, like Schwarzenegger. He can't
Okay.
run for president,
Okay.
but he can support somebody. Well, actually, so you know,
Yeah.
the Pilod had a steamy relationship with Hillary Clinton.
That's right. So there's a lot of intense backstory behind Hillary and Bill and the alien and who,
Hillary also adopted an alien baby,
Yeah,
so that happened too.
we just talked about that.
Oh, that's right. Sorry about that.
That's okay. First, Pilod paralyzed Clinton in this fight with a Pelodian headbutt.
Oh my God, this is the best.
It seems that the alien was kind of up in the air about both of them. Could go one way, go the other. Kind of a, hey, this alien swings whichever way he wants to. It's fine. We're all good with that.
Oh, from a romantic standpoint.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Well, you didn't know it. Well, you didn't know about that?
sorry, dude. No.
Big stuff. Big stuff happening. The same issue also, to keep up with other articles that are going on at the same time. Bin Laden hiding out in Alaska. and an image of Osama bin Laden decked out in full furs riding on a sled being pulled by huskies.
Do you think
So
the
just so you know
editorial-
the political landscape that we're talking about right now, the Weekly World News is wonderful.
It's amazing. That
I
never stops
love
giving.
that you can always just throw an alien into any story.
Yeah.
You can, and any presidential story too.
Was this around the time that the reemergence of the Area 51 mythology into prominence? Do you think that's
It
what?
was around the time of X-Files, probably.
Yeah, X-Files was at 90, 91, something like that.
Yeah, so you started to get the President Clinton rides in a UFO story was right around there. And that's when he endorsed Bill Clinton.
I'd love to imagine that how much character origination is happening. So they do clearly use presidents and celebrities and things like that, but they're also writing their own lore.
It's a world building.
Yeah, the world.
There
building.
is literally a weekly world out there that they have built that has Batboy doing Batboy shit.
Yeah.
And has Palad headbutting Bill Clinton.
Pelodian headbutting.
Yeah.
Yes.
Please, let's give it Lincoln.
The proper.
Lincoln was a wrestler.
Who do you think would win in a fight between Palad and Lincoln?
I cannot wait for that. Weekly World News
Palladian
article.
headbutt would have
That's a hell
countered.
of a listen. That's a hell of a finisher.
Yeah.
But could you get to the headbutt while you're in the Lincoln leg lock? I don't know. The guy ended the
Those
Civil
aliens
War.
got pretty long legs. Then he did hunt vampires.
Yeah.
But I do love that was the reason I had this last one on here, because I had the whole list of like different Clinton, Hillary, alien mythology, and I just love the fact that over a course of like a decade, they continued down this path of like, telling this whole story. And if you were someone who read every week, you eventually would get little bits. There was stuff in there. They're almost like Easter eggs in there for you. And it was the same main managing editor for most of the time the Weekly World News was around. So he was the one who was just sort of continuing to build this, like, well, it was like a comic book or something, writing for a comic book.
Yeah, it does seem like it's kind of like Charles Dickens publishing his novels in episodic form in these journals. But yeah, definitely creating a world and what you are reading is not like a daily newspaper where it's that news. It's the continuing saga of these characters. That's fascinating.
And I appreciate that also sometimes they just went for the dumbest joke possible.
Yeah.
Like Bill Clinton hires 3-breasted intern.
Yeah.
It's just like there's no depth in that joke. It's just a big dumb plotting joke. It just hits you right, Palloting. It hits you right in the face, and I love it.
All of them, I can imagine a small town barbershop and somebody walking in and going, "Hey, did you hear the news?" Yeah, Bill Clinton hires a 3-breasted intern.
Well, that makes sense. Good old Bill.
Yeah, is that true? I don't know. A little bit off the sides, and not too much off the top. Okay, so I think it's up to you, Michael.
Yeah, my last one, January 4th, 2000. Right at the turn of the century, into the new millennium. Face of Satan seen over U.S. Capitol.
Oh, wow.
Cover story. With a headline like that, it's got to be the cover story. This demonic, billowing face of smoke is seen over the U.S. Capitol. Ironic that these days, the face of Satan is seen in 51 senators and most of the House of Representatives. Hashtag politics.
Hashtag politics.
Take that, John Oliver. Take that, Daily Show. This was captured by special thermo cameras.
Oh.
Oh, it
couldn't
wasn't
see it
just a
normally.
Kodachrome.
But you had to have special thermochromatic, some sort of special camera to actually see this heat presence over the Capitol, this biblical, dire situation. I'm just glad the Weekly World News was there to tell us
with
all
their
about
heat
it.
camera.
They talk a lot about the devil, a lot. Satan's possessing all sorts of people. Devil's coming up. Sometimes they get the first photographs of heaven.
Yeah.
Weekly World News is as, is as biblical as it is about aliens, Bigfoots.
Elvi.
Also from that episode, issue, 1 in 4 UFO pilots are drunk. Which is a shockingly large number.
What are they drunk on? Palladian juice?
And the final one I'd like to bring up.
These are UFOs. These are alien pilots.
Yeah,
But they're drunk.
Yeah.
Those guys
1
are
in
drunk.
4. 25% of the UFO pilots are drunk. Lightning bolt zaps cold turkey and cooks it to a golden brown, which is mightily efficient. I guess what I'd like to wrap up by saying, Bat Boy is 36 years old. He is old enough to run for president.
Yeah.
He is old enough to represent us in Congress. I am pro Bat Boy. Going to Washington. He's an outsider.
Right.
He might have had his dalliances with the law, but who hasn't?
Who among
Yeah.
us hasn't? You're right.
Seems like he's an American.
He's a patriot.
Seems like he's a
A war veteran.
That's
War
right, war
veteran.
veteran. Let's get Bat Boy to the U.S. Capitol. Get Satan's face out of there.
Yep.
Let's get him to get rid of those Clintons.
We need a Batman for these times.
That's right. We need him to live in the White House. Where is that article?
Ed Anger's typing it up right
Yeah.
now.
Oh, is Ed Anger pro or anti-Bat Boy, do you think?
I believe that he's pro Bat Boy.
Well, they went out to lunch that afternoon, I'm sure.
I'm sure they did. Yeah, the office Christmas party was probably rocking. Elvis was there playing.
Three-boobed Hillary's copying her hooters on the photocopier, baby.
The intern with all three of her boobs.
Okay, guys, this has been the Mount Rushmore of the stories from the Weekly World News. Please share with us the stories that you've enjoyed from that fine publication. It's now my privilege to judge who is the what are the choices that will be etched onto the Mount Rushmore of Weekly World News. And I just want to start with Abraham Lincoln, pro wrestler on the Lincoln leg lock. And because that's the one, Michael, you had the yellow clipping.
Yeah.
Right. And I admire your commitment to it. Not only is it a good story, but it's something that you've cherished, the physical aspect of it.
And you'll pass down from generation to generation.
Yeah.
The truth must be known.
Yes.
That's true.
Yes. And I'm going to go Alien Slammer in Fistfight over Hillary. And I'm going to go Bat Boy Escapes. And I got to say, I apologize. Well, no, we got to go Ed Anger. Ed Anger.
I would be.
Yeah.
I'd
You
be
would
angry.
Steamed.
Be angry. Yeah.
I'd be miffed.
Yeah.
So this has been one of the most colorful episodes of the Mount Rushmore podcast. And I have had it's been a pleasure to serve with you, gentlemen. I'll be leaving your planet now.
Oh
My
my God.
planet needs me. No, you ain't rid of me yet. My name is Jeff.
I'm Richard.
Michael.